going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Dayton Triangles franchise here on Madden 25, and we are getting ready to embark on a brand new season. A new season in which we try to come out and we want to bring some respect back on our names, to be honest. After finishing with a 6-11 record, we finished with one of the worst records in the league, and now I want to come out here, I want to put the league on notice, but it starts in this episode. It starts with this beginning of the year where we try to come out here, man, and we tone. And so that's what we plan on doing today, trying to set that tone here, as well as figuring out who that final 53-man roster is going to be, plus a reveal of your custom guys, which I am going to jump into pretty shortly. So hopefully you guys are excited for this episode, man. If you are, make sure you go ahead and do a couple of things for me. Hit that like button, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into this thing. And so we'll go ahead and get it started here, checking out the new custom players that are joining the UFL, both that are on our roster as well as on other rosters throughout the UFL. Starting with our team, we had a couple of our top picks become custom players. The first round pick in Justin Freelove out of Auburn. He was our first round selection in the UFL draft. He's going to be a future starter for us down the line, but for the time being, Allen Jenkins is going to be able to hold things down. He's a solid football player. He'll be a good starter if he does end up making the roster, but for now, Justin Freelove is going to be the future at left tackle. And then our second round draft pick does end up becoming Nas Evans. Now, Nas Evans is listed, behind Tyler Pointer as well as Greg Sharp from an overall standpoint, but I do believe that Nas Evans has what it takes to be a really good player in this league and possibly an NFL talent, as Nas Evans, when you look at him, he's got that hidden development trait. And so what I really want to prioritize with him specifically is I want him to start at defensive end from day one. Could it hurt us in the short term at that position? Possibly. However, with him being a hidden dev and he has the highest upside out of everybody, I want to give him every possible opportunity to be successful in his rookie campaign. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and check out some movements throughout the UFL for custom guys, as well as new players that are joining other rosters as well. Justin Credible is one of them. He was the number 4 overall selection by the Orlando Guardians, and Justin Credible is going to be someone that is going to be behind a few veterans, Norman Carnegie, London Cloud, and Rashard Jared, but Justin Credible definitely has the potential to be a very good starter in this league. Was definitely a safe selection for the Orlando Guardians for sure. And then Wallace Hoverton actually started his career out with the Philadelphia Stars. However, it did not work out for him over in Philadelphia. So now he's here with the Orlando Guardians and is actually competing with Alex Holcomb in order to be that starting quarterback for the Orlando Guardians. He still has that future starter tag on him right now. However, Declan O'Donnell's, after primarily being a backup in his rookie season, he is going to be given the keys to the Brahmas offense as he comes in now 77 overall. He actually took over midway through the season, and he had his ups and downs, 15 touchdowns, 15 interceptions while throwing for 2,800 yards. But Declan O'Donnell is going to be given full trust, as there is no other quarterback on the roster that could really compete with him. Speaking of quarterbacks, Vincent Doom is going to be coming in as going to be borderline a starter already. He is a future starter on this team and could be playing over Evan Mason, who is a third-year player out of San Diego State. So that's something to monitor, but Vincent Doom definitely has an opportunity to play early on for this Eugene Chiefs roster. And how about Bluffton Tech's very own DJ Armstrong? He was not selected for the NFL, did not make it to the NFL by any means. But with that being said, DJ Armstrong, what he does get is an opportunity to be here in the UFL and has a lot to learn. He's going to be behind both Will Watkins and Charles Chambers. Thought that, maybe he could slide in here after the departure of Andrew Hurdon, who was the starter on this team for multiple years, but he's going to be the third string quarterback as of right now. As for the defensive side of the ball, we did have a couple of first-round picks that did end up becoming custom players as well. My boy Sukin out of Alabama is going to be the number 4 corner for right now, but definitely could end up becoming someone that starts right away, as he does have that day 1 starter tag, and he was, not to mention, the number 6 overall pick in the UFL draft, so he could be starting over guys like JoJo Lowe and Dylan Burchard. That would not surprise me by the end of the season. And then RJ Dillashaw is going to be drafted by the LA Wildcats. Do expect him to get on the field very early, as he was the 19th overall selection in the UFL draft. He's going to be their second best defensive tackle already, with only Sheriff Slate as the only notable defensive tackle on this roster. Joe Howard is listed as a future starter, but RJ Dillashaw has more of that immediate upside. But with that being said, though, we have to figure out what guys do we need to cut and going to bring down either to the practice squad or just outright not going to go out there and cut outright. So with that being said, we're gonna get things started here, and we're gonna start by moving Lucas Shelley over to the practice squad. He's not ready for UFL football at this time, and we'll do the same thing here for both Lamar Hayward, who will move to the practice squad, as well as Josh Middleton, who we did bring in through the undrafted free agency process. Couple of other guys that actually three or four other guys that I think I want to go ahead and cut outright is Trent Springs. He's 25 years old. I don't think it's ever going to really click for him, so we are going to remove Trent Springs from the roster. And we'll also do the same thing for probably these 3 guys right here: Darrell Bronson, Ramon Winthrop, and Kareem Covington, guys that I don't see being contributors on our team. After that, though, there's a couple of guys that I do want to go ahead and move on to the practice squad. Greg Ballard actually showed had some moments in the preseason, as did Gordon Pizzo. So while I don't think they're good enough to be a part of the actual team, I did like what I saw overall, and we're gonna go ahead and move both those guys onto the practice squad. Sidney Bush is also another player that, while we don't have a ton of outside linebackers at this moment, he's just someone that doesn't necessarily meet our standards as a team. So Sidney Bush, we are also going to move to the practice squad as well. After that, we got a couple of other guys that we definitely want to move down as well. Otis Lipton, as well as Forrest Joseph. None of those guys meet our standard, but they're young players, so we'll move them onto the practice squad as well. Now, with that being said, we do have a bunch of 64 overall guys that I am certainly considering going ahead and moving down to the practice squad. Casey Jacobs, I think, is someone that is simply not ready yet, and I have a couple of other viable guards on the roster already, so we'll go ahead and move him down. Same thing with Forrest Joseph. We already have, we'll be okay with 3 defensive tackles, as long as we stay relatively healthy at the position. And then George Hendricks, who we also brought in, very young player. He doesn't necessarily meet our standards as well, and so because he doesn't necessarily meet our standards, the 7th round pick is going to go ahead and start things out on the practice squad. And then Gabe Quinnen is someone that just hasn't really developed the way that we wanted to, so we are going to go ahead and cut Gabe Quinnen outright. Someone that we drafted but just didn't necessarily work out for us. But that is going to bring us down to a couple of more guys that I am thinking about going ahead and cutting. I definitely think moving Joe Kilmer down to the practice squad would make a lot of sense. Terrell Agnew is another person that I think would make a lot of sense as well. We found Nas Evans, and I think he's going to be a great pass rusher. We're going to go ahead and move Agnew to the practice squad as well. And then as for these two guys right here, Dwayne Simmons and Saquon Bernard, I think it would just make more sense if we cut both these guys and get some more cap space, because we might need it if we want to have a viable quarterback after this season. So the game is advocating for me to cut Naz Evans off the team, even though he does have that hidden dev trait. But I'm actually going to override the recommendations of the coaching staff here, and I'm actually going to go in a couple of different directions. Jason Bingham is the same, actually is a very similar overall, and he's aging. And so Jason Bingham, well, he had some really good moments with us here with the Dayton Triangles. It just gets to the point where it becomes a numbers game. We already have like a few good receivers that we really like. So we're going to cut Jason Bingham in order to make room for those younger receivers at the end of the day. And then Terrell Sharpen as well. I mean, Terrell Sharpen was somebody that we brought in for the sake of trying to see if we were going to have like something at the running back position after Paul Lashley got hurt last year. But Terrell Sharpen has really declined tremendously. He's now just a 69 overall, and I have a feeling that that decline is just going to be worse. So the last person that I am going to go ahead and cut is Terrell Sharpen, and that is how we're going to get to our final 53-man roster. Alright guys, so we are going to go ahead and jump into our very first press conference of the year, and just getting a few questions in terms of our team in general. And I actually think that our offensive side of football is actually our weaker link, or at least the side of the ball that's not as proven. I like what we have on the offensive side of the ball and all, but at the same time, I think we have some really good pieces on the defensive side of the ball, and that became more prevalent as the season went on last year. And more specifically, I think we have ourselves a very particularly good interior defensive line that is ended up being led by Matt Lever. And so this ultimately ends up into that question in terms of what would a successful season look like for us in terms of how we go about like our season offensively. And I think it would be really successful if we give up less than 1,300 yards on the ground this season, which I think is absolutely doable by all stretch and imagination. This is also a time for us to go ahead and try and figure out what we want our season goals to be. And I think what I want to do in terms of season goals is I want to be a team that is certainly competitive, but I don't know if we're there to where we're going to instantly bounce back and be in the playoffs, right? Based upon what our overall is. So we're going to commit to this goal for a year, trying to get to at least 7 wins this season like we did last year, and just hope for the best. Meanwhile, one of our guys on the roster in Gabe Truman, who we actually did draft like in the UFL draft, he was our 5th round selection. Well, he's actually like turning out to a solid player for us already. Already at 71 overall, he does have a legitimate shot to contributing for us as a 5th round rookie, which is amazing to see. We'll work on his strength and make him even more of a scheme fit, and he gets a +2 to power moves, which brings him up to a 72 overall, which I absolutely love to see. Alright, so with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into our very first game of the season, which happens to be against our division rivals in the Columbus Destroyers. Now, with that being said, our big brother in Columbus is going to drive down the length of the field to get this game started, and they are already going to be utilized with a red zone opportunity where Columbus will almost get the first points of the season. I actually thought they were going to find their way into the end zone there, but Curtis's guy is going to end up being just like a yard short of the end zone. But no harm, no foul for the Columbus Destroyers, because they will find their way into the end zone as Kashim Denard gets the scoring started here in season number 4. Now, with that being said, we do have a 3rd and short coming up, and we are going to be able to pick it up with our brand new running back. However, at the same time, though, we put ourselves in a little bit of a hole here. Barry Alfman, our 3rd year, former 1st round pick at right guard, he gets caught with the holding penalty. So instead of having that clean first down, it's going to be 3rd and 11. Going to throw over to right hand side, and thankfully our main man, Leon Thomas, is going to be able to come down, make a big catch, and so the penalty does not hurt us in the end. We are going to be able to keep the drive alive. Now, with that being said, 3rd and 6 as we try to push it down the length of the field. I thought we had Leon Thomas on the outside leverage, but Leon Thomas just could not come down with it, unfortunately. So we did have to settle for a field goal, and that was not the only field goal that we had to settle for. So we are still in this game, thankfully, because of our defense. Shout out to that defense there. As we now face a 2nd and 5. This is our 2nd red zone opportunity, trying to come away with a touchdown for the first time this season, and we are going to get it. Touchdown, Dayton! And Will Hunter is gonna find the end zone for the Dayton Triangles, and that is going to open up a huge scoring spurt. Ever since Columbus did score those first points in the game, we have came away with 20 unanswered points, and we could have a legitimate chance to continue that, as Andrew Collar is going to go ahead and going to pick up a massive first down there. So the drive will continue. We got 2 timeouts remaining, so even though there's less than a minute left, we absolutely can come away here with some points before the end of the first half. We just got to do a little bit of a hurry up here now as we go ahead, get to the line quickly. Collar's got some time, throws over the middle, but it's nearly intercepted. Want to get it out to Will Hunter there, but throw him a little bit behind, and it was nearly costly. As not as costly as the next play though, as we needed one of our guys to jump on the fumble, and we was in range for at least a long field goal attempt, but I don't think that's going to happen now. 3rd and 21. We're going to at least force Columbus to use one of their timeouts, as we will get McGriff to the outside. He gets a yard, but definitely short of the first down marker. So that does end up in a little bit of disappointment, but all good though. We come into this final quarter of action. We're up by 2 touchdowns still, and while we will be unable to pick up the first down on this play, we will end up going for it on 4th and 2. We're feeling spicy. We'll see if McGriff, our free agent acquisition, can pick up this first down for us. We try to bounce it outside, but maybe not the best vision there necessarily from Jonathan McGriff. But with that being said, Columbus will take over with 4.5 minutes left. But yeah, man, it looks like Columbus is trying to claw its way back. They have to get this 4th down conversion, and it's well short of the sticks. Nowhere to go. The Dayton Triangles are going to go ahead. We will take back over, and we have a chance to put that final nail in the coffin. 1st and 10 from the 18-yard line. Collar sends a man in motion. He's going to look to his left. He finds Leon Thomas, and Leon Thomas is going to move the sticks, as Andrew Collar's had an excellent day today. 20 for 27, 289, a few touchdowns. We'll see if we can get his 4th passing TD of the game, or will it be McGriff with his first one with the triangles, and he does! Touchdown, Dayton! And Jonathan McGriff is going to seal the deal, as we will win our season opener against the Columbus Destroyers, 35-21. And somebody should send that word out that we're so back. Alright boys, so our defense played a lot better than what the score says, because, 2 of those touchdowns were in garbage time. Let's be real with ourselves here real quick. What I'm most impressed about, though, is our offense has really found a stride here early on in the year. We can play like this, have that, complete, style of football. We're going to be much better than that 6-11 record that we had last season. And the development of our weapons has really shined for Andrew Collar, because Collar was excellent in today's game. 20 for 27, had 290 yards and 3 touchdowns. He played a very clean game. He did put the ball on the ground once, but with that being said, he was able to at least get his own fumble. The running game could use a little bit of improvement though. Jonathan McGriff, we did give him 17 carries today, and he only turned that into 50 yards, which is not ideal at all. Andrew Collar does show that he is in fact a dual threat quarterback, even though he does put the ball on the ground. So running wise actually wasn't bad, I would say, but is some room for improvement. Leon Thomas is showing that he's one of the best receivers in the game, potentially, though. He goes for 5 catches, 136 yards, and he had a couple of touchdown grabs as well, like outside of our moments. But our one touchdown throw that we did have a direct influence on did end up going to Will Hunter, who did only have a couple of catches in the game. Grayson Heineck and DeAndre Bonsier all had like solid games of receiving the football as well. Defensively, as I mentioned, I think we are definitely better than the 21 points that we gave up. But when it mattered, you know, we got the stops that we certainly needed. Peter Townsend led the way in tackles. He had 7 total tackles in this one, followed by Paul Hitchens and Ty Moody as well. We did not get to the quarterback, though. Our defensive line is still a little bit of a work in process, but this is kind of what I expected with guys like Nas Evans, who normally I wouldn't start if it wasn't for his hidden dev. But, you know, it's going to be good for the long-term like vitality of our team. We were still able to force a couple of interceptions. So J.J. Peters, who had 4 tackles in this one, he had an interception. And then our backup middle linebacker, Jordan Baptiste, made an impact as well. He was also able to intercept the quarterback as well. And that was a big reason why we're able to come out on top. We got a big win in this one. And matter of fact, Andrew Collar actually played so well of a game that we were actually able to get him like Conference Player of the Week with his efforts. Elam, interesting enough, one of the outside linebackers for the Columbus Destroyers, who we just beat, actually did end up getting Defensive Player of the Week in the conference, even though it was part of a losing effort. But as we continue our ascension into the brand new season, we get into week number 2 a little bit further. We actually do get a press conference talking about how we felt about the season opener against Columbus. And honestly, I felt really good with how the players battled. And we get this question in terms of who deserves the most credit. I thought it was a very complete game. The offense played extremely well, putting up 30 plus points. Defense also put up, you know, like they only allowed like a couple of meaningful touchdowns, and that's it. They did get a garbage time score there at the end. But at the same time, though, you know, really had to like figure out who we want to give the game ball to. And we do end up giving it to our group as a whole, like to the wide receivers. And I'm sure like they're going to have a great response, and they will. But one of our next matchups that we are going to have to deal with is going to be playing against one of our very own customs. Amari Givings was drafted in the first round of the UFL draft last year, and Amari Givings is turning into one of the better receivers, not only on this team, but also possibly in the league, as Amari Givings actually came out with a very good rookie season, 40 catches for 435 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is off to a little bit of a slower start. He only had 3 catches for 30 yards in his in the opener against Boston, but with that being said, they definitely have a solid receiving core that could give us some problems if we're not careful with that. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into the second game that we have for this episode in the Albany Imperials, as Albany also kind of doing a similar start than what we had in the Columbus game, able to jump in where they're right down onto the goal line, but Nick Cannon is going to give us some very valuable breathing room, as we are going to be able to bring down Macklin in the backfield. Gives us a lot more breathing room to work with. Even after the completion, we're still going to have this Albany squad on a 3rd and 10. So we're going to go ahead, drop 7 guys in the coverage, and make sure that we get it handled. But we have somebody open in the back of the end zone, as Albany is going to end up scoring first. It's Cliff Wise who's going to score for Albany there. And that's how the Imperials take a 7-3 lead. Meanwhile, late in the first quarter, we got a 3rd and long that we're going to need to try and convert. And thankfully, we get it, as Leon Thomas is going to move the sticks for us there. We'll see if he can get open for us a second time, as we have another 3rd down conversion. That was a ill-advised throw. Left Will Hunter out to drive. We did end up settling for the field goal, and after that, you know, our team just kind of comes out flat here for the remainder of this first half, Albany's going to get 10 unanswered before we get a legitimate shot at the ball here. So it becomes extremely valuable that we come out of this 2-minute drive and we come away with some kind of points. Let's see if our boys can pull it off, as we'll throw short to Will Hunter. We is going to get that completion there, but it's not for the first down, and we will have to use our first timeout. So yeah, 3rd and 4 coming up. It's going to be very crucial for us to pick up this first down right here. We'll see if the boys can go ahead and get it done. And sure enough, there's Andrew Kohler having a wide open receiver right in front of him in Leon Thomas. We did have to use another timeout though, because Leon Thomas actually does get shaken up. He has to come out of the game. So now we just have one timeout to work with, as we'll go ahead and try to continue to drive, throwing to the right-hand side. We got Grayson Heidick down the sideline, and Heidick is actually going to be able to pick up a good chunk of yards there. You know, if his passing offense hasn't been able to do much in this particular game, but, you know, hey, maybe Andrew Kohler and company are starting to heat up here a little bit as we try to throw over the middle. You know, I really wanted that slant pattern to be open, but, you know, unfortunately it wasn't there, and we locked onto a receiver a little bit too much. So, 2nd and 10 coming up. We will throw to the right-hand side. Oh, we had DeAndre Bazier open, but it was not a great throw by Andrew Kohler under pressure. And Bazier couldn't make up for it. It ends up being only 1 foot down. So it's 3rd and 10. Here is Kohler. Tries to throw to the right-hand side. Trying to throw it behind him, but, you know, just threw that one in the dirt instead. And then drive ends up stalling out yet again, and we find ourselves down still 17-6, you know, after 1 half of football. Now, the good news is about this particular game is that Leon Thomas, you know, he at least like didn't hurt himself too bad to the point where, you know, he's going to be out for the rest of the game. Thank goodness for that, because if we're going to pull this comeback off, we need our best receiver on the field. But Will Hunter is showing that he's a pretty solid number 2 himself, as Will Hunter nearly scores down here on the goal line. He's going to be marked down at like the 1-yard line. And then finally, a couple of plays later, Jonathan McGriff, the free agent acquisition, finds the end zone. And for a quick moment there, we were right back in it. However, we do fail to get the 2-point conversion, and then Albany does end up scoring yet again. And we find ourselves in a 4th and long, only a few minutes left in the game. And while it's certainly not an ideal situation at all, I mean, we got to keep it real, Chief. We got to go for this, right? So here we go, 4th and 15, looking for something to happen. We throw over the right-hand side, and Grayson Heidick cannot hang on to it. Probably should have settled in on a secure catch, but I didn't have the presence of mind of doing that to help the quarterback out a little bit more. And so Albany is going to take over in our territory. A chance to put this game away, but suddenly it gets a little bit more interesting. J.J. Peters is going to come away with the interception with 2:16 left to go in the first half. And now our team does have a little sprinkle of life, but we don't get this 4th down conversion on the ensuing possession. And yeah, it's going to be barbecue chicken after that. So the Albany Imperials are going to hand us our very first loss of the season. We lose 24-12, although we did have some good moments at various points. So a game in which we came out here after a big win against our division rival, and we just came out flat. I'm going to be honest with you guys. We definitely came out flat in this ball game. We definitely were in a spot to where we didn't really move the ball effectively, if at all. And unfortunately, the Albany Imperials are going to put a little bit of an upset on us here. Now, with that being said, Andrew Kohler didn't really make that many mistakes, but at the same time, didn't make those great plays either. He was 20 for 38 for 183 yards, so his efficiency did go down quite a bit, which unfortunately is a big reason why we did lose. We weren't as efficient with the football. We did a little bit of a better job, though, of running the ball, though, as Jonathan McGriff was able to get 50 yards and a touchdown, and Andrew Collar did have 6 yards a carry in this game. But again, McGriff's run average is less than 3 yards a carry, so, you know, definitely got to work on his efficiency. Expected a little bit more from him at this point in the year. Grayson Heineck actually surprisingly was our leading target person today. He had 6 catches for 55 yards. This is actually the first time in over a year that he leads us in total yards. Nobody else on the team did end up with more than 50 yards, and we definitely did not come away with any touchdowns either. Defensively, I thought the defense played okay in this one, but I mean, our offense kind of let us down a little bit today, as Paul Hitchens does lead us with 7 tackles. But what I do like is that, you know, it's guys that are front 7 that are in the tops of tackling. Greg Sharp has 5 tackles in the TFL, and then JJ Peters, our first round rookie from not this past off season, but the previous off season, second-year player, had 5 tackles, a sack, and an interception. So, I mean, he was definitely a difference maker out there for us on the field. We did also see Niles Connon and Matt Weaver get sacks as well. Forced the only turnover. We won the turnover battle. It's just that we could not take advantage of those offensive opportunities when we had them. Now, I don't recall any specific highlights for Amari Givens while we were actually in the moments, but he did actually have a pretty good game himself. He had 4 catches for 89 yards, and he also managed to catch a touchdown in this ball game as well. He actually led the team in both receiving yards and tied for first place also in terms of receiving touchdowns. But we do end up going ahead and moving on to the very next week, and we actually get quite more guys actually going through and getting some upgrades. Some of those guys are starters or at least contributing on the team. Starting with Barry Alfman, who back in the first offseason that we had, he actually was our first round pick, and we're gonna go ahead and work on his agility. He's up to an 81 overall. He's turning into a really nice offensive lineman for us here. One of the better young guards in the UFL. Also getting an upgrade as well is Greg Sharp, who did had a pretty nice game in the loss to Albany. He had 5 tackles and a TFL, and want to make him a little bit more of a scheme fit, so we'll work on his power rushing. And just with that upgrade alone, he actually does go ahead and get a +2 to his overall. Helps that he gets that pluses in finesse and play recognition. So he's now a 77 overall. Also getting looked at is Justice Freelove. Now, we haven't seen Justin Freelove yet, but he is someone that is getting that kind of that rookie bonus. Really good time for him to develop. His one weakness that he does have in this game is his pass protection. Definitely needs to work on that as someone that needs to be that blindside blocker for whoever plays the quarterback position for us. He doesn't move in overall though, but he does get that increase in pass protection at least. Now, as for Nas Evans, you know, we've been getting him on the field, and while he hasn't made a big impact yet, I still think that it's the right thing to do to make sure he gets those snaps. I really want to see what that hidden development is, and for this, we want to make him maybe a little bit better of a run stopper. That is definitely a weakness in his game. He doesn't move overalls though, but he does at least get a +4 to block shedding, which can help him out. Couple of other guys getting some upgrades though is Mitch Woodson, who did end up making the the active roster, and Mitch Woodson is kind of looking for those reps at the wide receiver position. Both Jason Bingham kind of leaving a bigger hole for us. Haven't seen him on the field yet, but he is going to at least get to a natural 69 overall, which is kind of nice because he gets a +2 to catching and +3 to medium route running. That might help him see the field a little bit sooner. And the last person getting the upgrades for us right now is Seth Knowles. We're going to work on his agility so that he's a little bit better of an athlete. He does get an overall boost with a +2 to impact blocking, pass and run blocking, so he becomes like a much better offensive lineman across the board. The fourth-year player out of Alabama is going to be looking to prove that he definitely deserves to stay with this team long term. Now, something that we do need to keep in mind as we get through this season is that we have 22 players that are on expiring contracts. The two biggest ones is definitely going to be Cameron Spencer and Leon Thomas. Both of these two guys are going to be people that have very little interest in signing, but definitely want to make every priority to try to bring them back as soon as we can, because losing both of these guys would be a huge loss for our team. But we only have $84 million to play with in terms of cap space, so it's going to be really interesting to see how we play things out as we progress through the season. So let's see if we can go ahead and bounce back after we take our very first loss of the season. This should be a winnable game for us. I think we are a better team than Chicago is, and we honestly should be 2-0, but you know, what ifs is just it's a dangerous game to play, like at any sports level. You know, we just got to handle the business that's right in front of us right now. You know, Jonathan McGriff, he's starting to find his groove with this team slowly but surely, which I think is a really encouraging sign, because we're definitely going to need him to, you know, help relieve some pressure off of Andrew Collar, because Collar did do a little bit too much, or trying to do too much last year. But here we go, second and short. We will run it up the gut, and Jonathan McGriff will pick up the first down, setting up a goal line situation where a couple of plays later, looking over to the left-hand side, we wanted Leon Thomas, but it was well covered. Nowhere to go with that pass, and so it's going to be third and goal from the 4-yard line. And so Collar in the shotgun, looking to make something shake, and Leon Thomas is wide but naked open. How could you leave our best offensive weapon wide open like that? We are going to take that layup every single time. And so with that being said, it's going to be a 7-0 game, but a low-scoring first quarter, though. That was actually the only points that we saw in that first quarter of action. However, starting in the second quarter, though, Chicago is trying to put a little bit of a drive together. They are on the verge of a red zone opportunity, and they're now going to be a goal line away from tying this game up. That was a big time throw, facing tremendous pressure. And now Chicago has a chance to even it up, but we force him out to his left, and we're going to force the incompletion there. Denario Allen did have some solid coverage there. But let's see if our defense can continue to get that goal line stand, but it's not quite going to happen. They target that same side, and they get much better results this time around. Manny Windsor is going to tie things up for the Chicago Enforcers. And so now we're looking at a tie ball game here, going into the last few minutes of this first half. As Will Hunter, you got to come down with that big fella. I mean, it's a tight window, but you will add your hands on it. You got to make that catch for me, big dog. But thankfully, running game is really good, though. Jonathan McGriff really starting to warm up. He's averaging over 5 yards a carry in this game. And it sets up third and short here. And we feel pretty good about going for it here on fourth down anyways, but not even going to be necessary, though, because we find our main man, Leon Thomas, once again. He gets his second receiving score of the day, and we are going to be back into the lead once again, and having an opportunity to tack on to that lead before we go into halftime. Just depending on what we do here with this little 2-minute warning right here, as Collar is going to look over the middle. Had an open Will Thomas there, but it was deflected at the line of scrimmage. So we're going to have to try again. 2nd and 10 now coming up. And this time, we get a much more clear throwing window, and Leon Thomas is going to be able to move the sticks. But given how, we're in this 2-minute mode, definitely want to see if we can get him off guard here, going no huddle. And we actually run the ball, and we actually pick up the first down running the football. Incredible work being done. So incredible that we're going to try to do it once again. And there's a big hole left for Jonathan McGriff, who nearly picks up yet another first down. He's having a good game, averaging 6 yards a carry at the very least. But we are down to our last timeout, though, as Collar wants to go out to Leon Thomas over to that right-hand side, but let him just a little bit too far. So it's going to be a 3rd and short coming up as Collar looks over to the right-hand side. It's a one-on-one matchup to the outside for DeAndre Bazier against the star corner, but might have thrown it just a tad early. I'm not sure what happened, but just wasn't a great throw by Andrew Collar, trying to throw it with a little bit more hesitation. It doesn't hurt us. Chicago doesn't score, but I mean, like an interception for our star quarterback, that is not going to help his chances getting into the NFL, throwing that kind of interception. That was a little bit of a bad one, to be honest. However, with that being said, we have a chance to go ahead and extend the lead even further as we actually do an audible. We saw that Leon Thomas was isolated one-on-one, and you know, we trust Leon Thomas to win, and to his credit, he actually does. So big lead here in the Windy City. We're up 24-7, and that probably is going to be barbecue chicken at this point. When you got guys like Peter Hitchens, Paul Hitchens. I don't know why I called him Peter. Not sure where that came from. But you know, we slow down this Chicago offense a little bit here as they're just continuing to get in their own way, to be honest with you. I mean, when you had an easy 4th down conversion and you can't even convert that 4th down conversion, not a great look. So, with that being said, no more timeouts left. We have a chance to end the game once and for all. And to our credit, we don't get it. I thought he was able to get that 1st down marker, but there's an injury timeout on the field here for Grayson Heineck. And hopefully that's not a serious injury, because if we lost him for multiple weeks or something in like the last minute of the game, that would be some crazy work being done. Thankfully, we go for it on 4th down, and Jonathan McGriff not only picks up the required yardage, but is able to push us into the end zone. Now ultimately carry us to our 2nd win of this season, as we will take down Chicago. 31-14 ends up being your final score here. So we improved to 2-1 after that. And this game definitely showed the full potential of our squad as we put together, in my opinion, a complete performance. As, you know, not only did our offense play extremely well, but defensively, we did a pretty good job shutting down the Chicago's Enforcers offense. And it just goes to show that we definitely could be 3-0, but we definitely are glad that we're playing a lot better than last season. As for Andrew Collar, he did throw his 1st interception of the season, but it's all good because he does end up leading us to a win. He goes 19 for 30 for 3 touchdowns, only threw for 177 yards, so didn't push the ball too terribly downfield, but made the big plays when it mattered. However, a big story in this one is that Jonathan McGriff actually had himself a nice game for a change. He had over 5 yards to carry on the way to the end zone to seal things. Andrew Collar had a few nice runs as well, and most importantly, McGriff did have his first 100-yard game in a Dayton uniform. As for the receivers, it was actually DeAndre Bazier that led the way in receiving yards. He had 62 receiving yards. Will Hunter had a solid game as well, as did Jonathan McGriff. But Leon Thomas was somebody that was just absolutely unstoppable in the red zone. Leon Thomas ends up with all 3 of the passing touchdowns. He only had 5 catches, so his work was all done in the red zone. I did believe that the defense played extremely well, though, as J.J. Peters led the way with 8 total tackles. Niles Cotton wasn't too far behind. He had 6 total tackles in the ball game as well. We got to quarterback a ton today. The pass rush was really prevalent in this one. A bunch of guys getting sacks today, including J.J. Peters, Cameron Spencer, Daryl McLeod, Greg Sharp, Von Red, all managed to get to the quarterback today. Looks like Nas Evans didn't really make any of an impact in this one, but it is what it is, though. We did force 3 interceptions, though, which is incredible to see, as J.J. Peters, again, making his impact felt. Ty Moody got an INT, and then Paul Hitchens also had an interception, which you happen to see in gameplay. And the crazy thing is, we also had 4 pass deflections, so it could have absolutely been worse for Chicago. Right after the game, though, Isaiah Connor, who is one of our offensive linemen, actually does get an upgrade that I definitely want to go ahead and utilize. This is a good offensive lineman. This is our starting right tackle here for us, and we're going to work on his pass protection here, but his overall actually does not increase, even though we do get this particular upgrade. He is going to remain at a 76 overall, but he does at least get a +2 to pass blocking. But after moving on to the next week, we had a lot more upgrades in the that we have among our team, most of which are happening on the defensive side of the ball. We'll go ahead and get started here with Matt Weaver. He is our best defensive lineman, and Matt Weaver is showing as an 88 overall. He is a certified stud, definitely has an outside chance of getting put on an NFL roster at the end of the year. For now, we're going to work on his power rushing abilities, and he jumps up to an 89 overall. Gets a +3 in tackling as well as finesse moves, as the 26-year-old from Louisville is shaping out to be a stud on our defense. Also, quickly becoming a leader on our team is J.J. Peters, as just in our second season, J.J. Peters is turning into a superstar, man. He is just turning into a really phenomenal football player. Definitely someone also to maybe keep an eye on, as he's improving so quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an outside chance he gets onto an NFL roster in a year or two. He does get an ability slot because he hits the 85 overall threshold, and then he does get a +2 to power moves as well. So it looks like he just got the unfakeable ability, which allows him to rarely be faked out by ball carrier moves. This only applies if we aren't controlling him in game. A few more guys getting an upgrade, though, is Von Red, and Von Red is someone that is quietly turning into a solid player for us. We'll work on his power rushing here, and he does turn into a 74 overall with a power +2 to power moves. Shelton Very is a special teams kind of guy, and we'll work on his man-to-man, and he actually gets up to 70 overall, and he's turning into a solid backup here for us, especially with the surprisingly +2 to zone, even though we specifically worked on his man coverage, but whatever, EA be EA. And then we have Cameron Oliver, who is very new to our team. He comes in as a rookie out of Iowa. We'll work on his field general abilities to make him more of a scheme fit. He's at least a 64 overall, not quite ready to see the field still. And this effort by J.J. Peters was actually good enough to be recognized by the UFL League office, as he was able to be AFC Defensive Player of the Week, as J.J. Peters seemed like he had an even better game than on the NFC side. You can make the effort that he's UFL Defensive Player of the Week. Alright, so we are getting embroiled in week number 4 action here at this point, and we actually, before we even get into our first semi-primetime game of the season, we actually do have a quick press conference that we want to take care of, and they're asking for how Andrew Collar, how he's been doing early on in the season. And I've actually been pretty happy with how he's been able to avoid turning the ball over. That has been a really good attribute of his, doing much better than even in the first year or two of his UFL career. And then we get the question of what he's been doing in terms of who deserves the most credit. And really, for me, it was a really tough choice, but we ended up going with his receivers, because receivers was such a weak link. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time speaking, but we're gonna get some XP points across the board because of that answer. And so because of that, we are now an 81 overall team as we go ahead and carry ourselves on the road against the Seattle Sea Dragons. Now, because this actually is going to be a semi-primetime game, we'll actually go ahead and go through the highlights of this entire game, and not just go through specific moments like I've been playing for the first few games of this episode, as Seattle is going to go ahead, get started, roll out to the right, but able to find the receiver last second, as Sarah might have slightly overthrown his receiver, but was still a catchable football. And his guy was able to come down with it. So, just in a blink of an eye, we are now looking at Seattle in our territory. So, let's see if our boys can lock in so that we can make sure that Seattle is kept off of the end zone. However, that is not going to help us out, as Nowak, who had that big catch earlier in the drive, he's going to be able to pick up yet another first down as well. As we got a 1st and 10 from the 28-yard line, dropping back, looking around. He's going to throw deep downfield, and it's going to be incomplete. No fly zone for Nick Cotton, who we found in free agency a couple of seasons ago. And he's been a nice little addition for us on the back end. But man, they were so fortunate I was not usering there, because if I was actually usering that, that could have been more of just an incompletion. That could have been picked off. But instead, it's going to be 3rd and 10, and we will see Paul Hitchens get into the backfield in a hurry, bring this quarterback down to the ground, and with that, Seattle had to settle for a field goal. So, first drive, we're able to, we gave us some yards, but we did at least lock in when it mattered most. And now it's our time to have the football, and it starts with a big throw over the middle to Will Hunter, who right away is going to get us a huge first down right from the get-go, as now we are in Seattle territory for this first drive of the game, as McGriff is able to stay on his feet. I thought he was going to be brought down in the backfield, but at the same time, though, he just kept those legs turning and was able to turn to like a few extra yards after that, which you absolutely love to see. So it creates a 2nd and short where we could have went with like a play action if we really wanted to, but instead we're just going to continue to run the dang ball. I really enjoy my offensive line, and I'm sure Jonathan McGriff really likes his offensive line as well, as we are going to now get across the 30-yard line, setting ourselves up with a little bit of play action, and DeAndre Bossier is going to hang on to it. Huge first down for the Dayton Triangles, as that will set up shop with our first red zone opportunity of the game, and we will cash in very next play as Grayson Hyde gets open on the RPO, and your first touchdown of the day is gonna go to your Dayton Triangles in this semi-prime time matchup. So we saw our team able to hold Seattle to a field goal last time out, but really curious to see if we will be able to repeat that same result, or is this going to be one of those games that is going to turn into like one of those like shootout kind of games, as we're going to force like Seattle to go ahead and check it down. We actually covered everything downfield pretty well, so I mean, if they want to have those like short gains, like they're more than welcome to it, but we don't play to run on that next play very well at all. I mean, and to be honest, that was my gap. I let that interior offensive lineman get to the 2nd level, and now once again we see Seattle in Dayton territory, as JJ Peters, got a little bit too loyal to his particular zone. Probably should have pursued maybe a little bit more there, and it creates a whole new set of downs because of it. So let's see if our boys can lock it down once again, as that's a great incompletion there to force 1st and 10. 2nd and 10 though, looking to go deep downfield, and Jared Strong is there with the interception. No, I didn't like my particular path, but I might have been better off just taking it out of the end zone like I was originally thinking. Still, we get the interception, so we keep it at 7-3 no matter what. Bad news is, so we start this thing on the 1-yard line, so got to get at least one first down to, just to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room. Don't want to lose this field position battle by any means. So this 3rd and 1 is a little bit bigger than what originally meets the eye. So let's see what we can do here on this short 3rd down. And sure enough, we do have an open Will Hunter right down the middle. He actually makes it to the 20-yard line. So just like that, we get that field position and get that fresh breath of fresh air that we were desperately looking for. Now, a couple of plays later, we're going to go ahead and run it for Jonathan McGriff, who takes it down the sideline. Oh my goodness, if he was a little bit more patient, let Barry Alfman, get that block settled on the safety. Jonathan McGriff could have been gone like a girl in a country song, but still a really good run though, and makes up for it to a degree by, making a man miss in the open field. That's going to actually take us out of the first quarter. We do have a slight lead, but I think we're playing better than even what this score is indicating right now. Alright, so jumping into the second quarter of action here as we got 2nd and 2. We're going to run up the gut here for Jonathan McGriff. And Jonathan McGriff is going to go ahead, pick up that first down. We actually do get a cross midfield. So, actually, for a drive at, starting from the 1 yard line, the fact that thanks to that particular run that you just saw, we're going to be in field goal range. I mean, that's already a big win as long as we can finish this drive out with some kind of points, right? So here we are, 1st and 10. And we actually could go deep here for Leon Thomas, but we overthrew him. Oh my goodness, we overthrew Leon Thomas. That was a touchdown waiting to happen. Instead, it's going to be 3rd and 9. And we're going to go with the 4 verts till it hurts. Looking downfield, and we will not miss Leon Thomas this time, who hangs on for a 31-yard grab. Huge first down for the Dayton Triangles. And now we have ourselves a goal line opportunity. Gower looks over the middle, finds Leon Thomas one more time, and finds the end zone yet again. Touchdown, Dayton! And the Triangles extend their lead quite mercilessly. So, big drive coming up from Seattle Sea Dragons as this game has the potential to possibly get out of hand if Seattle cannot come away with points on this drive right here. So, a big moment for the Sea Dragons as they're trying to remain above 500 on the season. And what do? They throw an interception, and Peter Townsend just happens to be in the right place at the right time. And we are going to take over across the 45-yard line. Let's see our boys go to work here, man, as we'll get things started here. Run up the middle for Jonathan McGriff. And while Jonathan McGriff doesn't get a ton of yards on that run, is still doing extraordinarily well. He's averaging 7 yards a carry. But I do want to pick up this particular first down, which I have no idea how Andrew Collar misses that badly. I mean, Collar is like a 90 overall quarterback, so to see him miss short like that and as badly as he did, that's a shocker to me. I'm not going to lie to you. So, forced to go for it here on 4th down because I'm not punting it in our own territory. That just was never going to happen. And thankfully, we do pick it up because otherwise, there might have been like a minor crash out. But this is going to hurt us tremendously. We somehow fall in the fumble. Thank goodness to that. But at what cost, though? Looks like there was a holding penalty. So, even if we didn't put the ball on the ground, that could have been bad. Regardless, either way, it's 3rd and 18. They end up declining the penalty. So, 3rd and 18, we're going to throw over the middle. And Leon Thomas had another touchdown in his hands and dropped it. I mean, you can't make this up. I mean, that is an uncharacteristic drop for Leon Thomas. We do get a field goal out of it, but man, should have been 21-3 though. I'll tell you what. Instead, it's only 17-3. We do at least force the other team to go ahead and go 3 and out. So let's see if we can redeem ourselves here a little bit as we'll go ahead and throw it here on 2nd and 5. And Leon Thomas just has been a consistent problem all day long. I mean, you got to feed this man the ball as we go into the 2-minute warning. But let's see if we can pull a fast one here. We haven't ran a halfback screen in a little bit. Was a little messy, but, still able to eventually get it out to Jonathan McGriff. And his first catch of the day is actually going to be enough for the first down. As we'll go ahead and try and see if we can get something going here. 1st and 10, throwing over to the left-hand side. And going to throw it quickly to Will Hunter, who gets tackled right away. We still have a couple of timeouts we'll have to work through as we'll go ahead and again throw over the middle. We find Jonathan McGriff once more. I mean, he was open over the middle of the field. Nobody went with him. Sets up a big gain, and now it's going to be 1st and goal where Collar wants to throw over the middle. Want to keep it a little bit low so that if we sailed it, I was worried that if we actually sailed that thing, that could have turned into an interception the other way. Do want to make sure that we come out with points, and we will do that anyways here in Seattle, one of the rainiest cities in America, and we are letting it rain here in that first half as we are dominating the Seattle Sea Dragons right now, winning by a substantial margin. We're going to be up 24-3 at the end of this first half of action. Now, we'll go ahead and get this second half officially underway, as we'll go ahead and start by handing it off to Jonathan McGriff, who, had a really good first half. I mean, he went out, I think he had like 6 to 7 yards of carry in the first half, but continuing that is going to be a challenge if we're going to lose some of our starting offensive linemen. Now, we built our roster in a way to where we ensured that we are going to have depth on the offensive line to a degree, but that could make it harder for us to run the ball if that is a serious injury. Thankfully, we do have emerging guys like DeAndre Bazier there, who is going to go ahead and pick up that first down. And, of course, we also have Leon Thomas, who, he only has 4 catches for 62 yards, but I honestly feel like he's done much more than that. I feel like his stats should be more gaudy than really what's actually showing. Don't mind either way, and we're actually going to go ahead and try to get Leon Thomas the ball. He's actually going to get carry as well, and he'll pick up a gain of 6, which, I mean, I absolutely love that type of play call. We do lose Anton Mills, though. He has a bruised sternum, so he's going to be out for the rest of his game. We will, however, get another first down through the air, again with Leon Thomas doing one of those, like, halfback dive alerts. So now we are just right outside of the red zone, the start of this second half, and really just picking up where we left off in the first half of action. It's been an extremely effective day, particularly for this offense. Defense has been doing really well as well. Really not one of those games where like our team is just putting together a complete performance, and it would be even more complete if we can finish this drive with yet another touchdown through the air, as Collar's going to look around, doesn't like what he saw, so he tries to step up in the pocket. However, we do end up getting sacked from behind, and so this 3rd and goal is going to be a lot more challenging. Going to have to do this from the 11-yard line, and 3rd and 11s are not fun. So here we go. Collar's going to send Jonathan McGriff in motion. Going to throw over the middle. Looking. Has a little bit of a hole, but Will Hunter can't hang on to it. It would have been hard for him to get into the end zone, even if he did hang on to it. But, I mean, him, like, getting the drop means that, like, the decision was made easy. We had to settle for a field goal, and we are going to be up by 24, but we don't get that touchdown that we were necessarily looking for either. It actually goes quite a bit before we see any more notable action in the 3rd quarter. The 3rd quarter has been a lot quieter than what we saw in the first half. Teams kind of like playing the ball with a little bit more frequency than what we saw in that first half of action. But with a few minutes left to play in this 3rd quarter of action, Seattle is starting to cook a little bit here as they try to throw it right inside, and oh, I thought Peter Townsend was going to have his 2nd interception. He read it pretty well, but somehow Nowak is going to be able to hold on and make that catch. So the drive will continue, but will be made more difficult after a couple of not so great plays for the Seattle Sea Dragons. They will face a 3rd and 6, where we'll get some pressure right away from Matt Weaver, but our linebacker somehow dives for it. And thankfully, we do have a little bit of help on the back end, coming in, making that tackle. And Seattle opts to go for the field goal as well. They do not try to go for it there on 4th and 3. And so it's still a 3-possession game here as we get into really the final quarter realistically, as that last run will get Jonathan McGriff over 100 yards, so congrats to him. His 2nd game in a row, by the way. where he has more than 100 yards rushing in a single game. Like I said, he's really starting to, warm up to our style of play, I believe, as McGriff will get another carry, speaking of which, and actually nearly picks up another first down for us, as that will take us into the end of the third quarter. It's been a dominating affair as the Dayton Triangles, well, they are going to continue to build upon this lead. Just got to make sure we finish strong in this final quarter of action. So, with that being said, fourth quarter officially underway as, we're going to get what got us here, and that's going to be running this ball. And while McGriff does get stood up at the line of scrimmage, he still was able to find a way to kind of push himself forward, pick up that first down. But it may be one of those things where, hey, maybe they are starting to key in on our rushing attack at least a little bit. We don't have I guess I would say, a complex rushing game by any means. But even though it is not a complex running scheme, it has been an effective running scheme for us throughout the course of this matchup. However, on a 3rd and 5, it's going to be hard for us to pick up the first down on the ground, but we're going to try it anyways. And McGriff, I thought, was going to be able to shake away, but just had too much penetration there on the inside. Huge pause there, as we will have to settle for the field goal. So, we're up by 24. We're putting together a pretty, effective game still. But Seattle is certainly not going to give up without a fight. They are a very proud football team, as Seattle is going to try to drive down the length of the field. They do get the catch, although it looks like they opted for the secure catch because it's been that kind of day. Don't want to do anything too fancy here, as Seattle looking for their first touchdown of the day. They have not found the end zone in this entire matchup. Does that possibly change here, as they are going to be in Dayton territory for the 3rd time in this game? And hey, you know what them kids say, maybe 3rd time is actually the charm, though. So let's see what they can do here now that they have a red zone opportunity. 2nd and 6, and it looks like their quarterback is going to keep it. They pick up the first down. However, there is a penalty on the field. Is actually going to be holding, so the first down is going to be nullified by Ramon Alfonso. Instead of a 1st and goal opportunity, it's 2nd and long instead, where they are going to drop back the pass, and we're going to get to this quarterback. It's Paul Hitchens, who's been having a nice start to the season. Going to make it 3rd and 25. So we just got to make sure that we simply don't get beat deep. We literally just have one job. 3rd and 25, and they are going to try to go deep, but it is triple coverage there. Ultimately, J.J. Peters is going to be given the credit for the pass deflection. And so, 4th and 20. Not really a lot that you can do in a 4th and 20 situation, but they're going to try to go with the 4 seams, and actually almost ends up getting completed. And if it did, that could have been an interesting attempt there, but going to be well short of the marker regardless, I would think. And so 4 minutes left to play in the game. We have a chance to really put this away, and this is kind of those situations that I want to be in as a football team, given the strength that I really believe that we have in our offensive line. I think we have one of the best offensive lines in the UFL. 4-minute drives. Can we put together a 4-minute drive kind of situation? Make sure we put this game away once and for all. Or are we going to give Seattle another opportunity to have the ball without us scoring? We'll find out here as we got a 3rd and 10 coming up. And still at that midfield marker, as we will run some time off the clock. And, while we did run a little bit of time off the clock, at the same time, not fully what I wanted to do. We did have to punt this football away. But look what we end up getting them. We pinned them inside their 5-yard line. They don't do anything with it. And eventually, we actually get a blocked punt. I've never seen that happen in Madden before, at least to the benefit of me. But that's going to change, though, as Cameron Means, the backup linebacker, is going to contribute heavily there on special teams. And after that, we got the backups in, get them a little bit of playing time, give them some reps, all that good stuff. And we get a signature win here early in the season, just to let the rest of the league know that this is not the same Dayton team as last year. And you know it's a great day for us when you feel like you're able to put in the backups, at least for like a very brief moment in time. I mean, this was just a completely dominating affair. I mean, 3 turnovers, you know, huge advantage there. We locked down Seattle completely. They did get a garbage touchdown at the end of the game, but with that being said, I mean, it is what it is. But 37 points scored in the game as well, which is, I mean, it's just been a complete game. I mean, nothing that I could really complain about here. And it starts with Andrew Collar, who had a very good day through the air. He had 20 for 28 passing, was very efficient, and had a solid yards per attempt average. He had 227 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he looked extremely calm in running the offense. For the ground game, Jonathan McGriff is going to come out. He was a huge bell cow for us, man. This is exactly what I was hoping for when we brought in Jonathan McGriff through free agency. That's now 2 games in a row in which he does manage to bring in like over 100 yards of receiving. Marvin Whitfield was able to get a brief appearance. Leon Thomas continues his solid performance. He ends up with 6 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Bazier was also able to find the end zone, and the same could be said for Grayson Heidick, who does get his first receiving touchdown of the season. But this defense has shown incredible strides over the course of this season already. Paul Hitchens, man, so gotta give Paul Hitchens some love. He was someone that was brought in just to kind of be a bridge player, but proven that he could be more than that. Led the team in tackles today with 9 tackles, and he had multiple sacks as well. JJ Peters was also flying around, and while it wasn't as good of a game as what we had last time out, he did have 7 tackles, which is still pretty good. Pressure was also a huge what I would say like impact in terms of what we were able to do. Cameron Spencer was able to get a sack as well. And then we did end up with actually 3 turnovers. Jared Strong and Peter Townsend were both able to get interceptions. There was no forced fumbles, but we did have the block from Cameron Means, our backup outside linebacker, and we were able to convert that into a defensive touchdown, which was absolutely the icing on the cake. Alright guys, so this is how the standings are shaking out after the first 4 games of the season. And we're doing pretty well. 3-1 to start the year out. We're tied at the top of our division. We are tied with Evansville, which we'll get a good look at here in the next episode. The only loss is to Albany, who does end up being 2-2 so far. However, that Columbus win that I thought was going to be a really good win for us, they had a pretty good year last year. Well, they're starting the year out 0-4, and so is Pittsburgh as well. So we might have the benefit of having 2 really bad teams in the division, but there's still a lot of football left to be played. Real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and check what's going on the other side of the UFL. What's going on in the NFC? The Chicago Enforcers are tied for first place with a 2-2 record. No one really separating themselves yet in the NFC North. In the South, New Orleans and Arlington is tied for first place with a 3-1 record, but the Tampa Bay Bandits are still searching for their first win of the year. In the East, the Charlotte Knights, who actually did have a player or 2 go to the NFL last year, well, it seems like they're unaffected right now as they do come in with a 4-0 record, start to separate themselves in the NFC East already. And then finally in the NFC West, got a freeway tie for first place because we beat Seattle. Seattle could not separate themselves. So Eugene, the Seattle Sea Dragons, and the Arizona Hotshots, they are all tied at a 2-2 record. The LA Wildcats are the only team in this division that is currently touting a losing record. So with that being said, guys, that is just going to go ahead and wrap things up. As next episode, we will actually be on primetime for the very first time this year. We will be taking on the Evansville Thunderbolts in our division, and this is an early game. This is an early big game for us, I would say, that could really dictate who controls the division early on. It seems like we're going to be pretty evenly matched between us and this Thunderbolts team. But with that being said, definitely want to come out here, want to set a tone with our football team. and it's going to be good to see how good we really are. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, man. Lots of game action happening, lots of things happening around the league in general. But if you enjoyed this, man, make sure you do a couple of things for me. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you happen to be brand new to the channel. And this is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. But you guys, hopefully you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.